Hey guys, and welcome to Metroid Zero Mission. This is probably my favorite 2D Metroid in the series, to be completely honest with you. It was released in 2004 on the Game Boy Advance, and for my money, it has some of the best level design the series has to offer. It's got really nice controls that I think outdo Super Metroid, and we're just gonna get straight into it. We're going on hard mode, gonna be collecting every single item in the game. We're gonna leave no stone left unturned on this planet. Now, the previous game in the series, Metroid Fusion, featured a very heavy story focus compared to most other Metroid games at the time, and Zero Mission doesn't really follow that trend, which I kinda like. I liked Fusion, but I enjoy the fact that they went back to a simple, just quick overview and then right into the action for Zero Mission. I think it works best for the game's design, since there wasn't really anything super complicated to the story in the first game. They didn't really feel the need to add anything to it, and I mean, really, do you need a story for this game? It's Samus going around shooting Metroids and defeating Mother Brain. That's what it is in a nutshell, and that's all it needs to be. Now, as I said earlier, I'm playing this game on hard mode, which has a few extra differences compared to what they did in Metroid Prime. For starters, all energy tanks now, instead of giving you 100 energy, now only give you 50, like that one up there, which we can't get to quite yet. We need more items before we can possibly even think of that. The other thing hard mode does is reduces the amount you get from capacity upgrades. So for instance, missile packs, usually giving 5 missiles maximum, will now only give you an additional 2, which is fairly relevant early on in hard mode when we don't have very much to work with. It'll become less of an issue later once Samus is just stacked, but it's very relevant for the early and I would say even for the mid-game. One other kind of annoying thing that hard mode does is just adds a whole lot of these red zoomers to all these platforms. All they really do differently from the normal yellow ones is do more damage, so. And unfortunately our beam can't quite reach those last few blocks, but as I said earlier, this game has great level design, and if you're a little explorative, you can find a shortcut to get through there without needing to find any other items. But of course, since this is a 100% run, we're going to be going after those items anyways. So as you can see, we need the Morph Ball to even think about coming here. We needed it to even get this far, but next we get the Long Beam. I honestly don't think they needed to keep the Long Beam in this game, because in the original, as you've seen before we got this upgrade, our shots would only go so far across the screen. But with the Long Beam, now they just travel the entire length. I don't really see the point in keeping it, to be honest, and later Metroid games of course got rid of it entirely, but it is at least available early enough that it makes almost no difference, so that's nice. It's more relevant if you're doing something like a low percent challenge run, but even then. And it looks like their way to the right is blocked off. We don't really have any way of getting through there, it seems. Oh. And it looks like our way to the left is being blocked off by 2 decapitated monsters. That's not ominous at all. But we'll be back there later. Those are the heads of Kraid and Ridley, Mother Brain's 2 commanders, if you will. But, well, since there's nothing else to do, we just run back over to the right, and this guy pops out of the ceiling and gives you a heart attack. But if you just wall jump right back up to there, you can just stay out of his way and shoot him no problem. Now, I haven't really brought these statues up, even though we've seen a fair few of them at this point. The Chozo statues in this game, in addition to holding items for Samus to pick up, they'll also point you in the direction of what the game intends for your next destination to be. But note, it's only an intention. You don't have to follow these suggestions at all, and in fact, for most of the game, I'm going to be ignoring these. But early on, you kind of don't have much of a choice. We have the Long Beam, we have the Morph Ball, we don't really have a whole lot else. Our options are extremely limited right now, so we can kind of only do what the game explicitly wants us. This'll change basically at the end of this video, but Early on, it is fairly railroaded, and I honestly think that works for this game. I like that it subtly holds your hand just a little bit before it sends you off on your own, prepared for the dangers of the real world. It's proper parenting at work. But enough of that. You can see we've got our first missiles, and looks like we can't go that way. Those blocks can't be destroyed by our beam or our newly acquired missiles, so let's just head back to the left, and it looks like we have an interruption. I don't think this thing has an official name except for worm. I mean, that's what it is. Let's be real. It's some sort of alien worm with pincers and a giant eyeball. Now, something important to note is that you can actually fail to kill this boss. I know it doesn't seem like much of a boss because it just died in 3 hits, but the game considers it a boss. It has boss music. It gives us the charge beam. It's a boss. Pathetic as it may be. If you fail to hit it all 3 times that it gives you the chance, it will run away and its health will reset the next time you fight it. It'll appear in a later room that I'll point out when we get to it, but just know that if you do miss out, it's not the end of the world. You'll get multiple attempts, infinite attempts actually, but it is a little bit of a pain in the ass having to deal with it every time it shows up if you do miss out on that first run. So I'm glad I was able to actually get it down in that first encounter. It's nice to have the charge beam also because it lets us do a little thing called the pseudo screw attack. What that does is when you're charging your beam and you do a flip jump, you'll actually damage whatever you happen to jump into while you're in the spin. And as you can see, there's a little hidden alcove off to the top left here containing another missile pack, which is very, very nice. These hives are really annoying because they constantly spawn out these flies even if you kill all of them, and the only way to reasonably deal with them is either to shoot missiles at them because they'll reach or have the long beam. So that's kind of why you want that for this place. As I said, you can skip the long beam to get here, but dealing with the hives then becomes much, much trickier. Either you stand at the very, very edge of those platforms to just barely reach it, or you run right into their face and just tank the damage while dealing with the hives. And this room here is where, if you didn't defeat the charge beam worm earlier, you get another chance here. And just sort of out in the middle of nowhere, we get our first energy tank, which is awful nice. Another 50 energy is very helpful at this point in the game when we don't have a whole lot to work with. And as you might notice, falling into that orange stuff, not a great idea. Drains your health pretty quickly, not super quickly, but quickly enough to be a danger. That stuff is acid, and it's something we'll have to deal with for the foreseeable future, because there's no way we can get around it, really. Perhaps at some point in the future we'll find a way to get through it without too many issues, but for right now, we need to make sure we're avoiding it as much as possible. And as you can see, we're awful close to that spot the Chozo statue earlier pointed us towards. This is going to be the last place that we really have to go to in sequence. This item upcoming here is going to open up a lot of possibilities for us, and it's going to be a little crazy. Now, if you listen really carefully there, you might have been able to hear something that sounded like hopping around, but, well, I'm sure it's nothing important, especially not when we've got bombs now. So bombs. Quite possibly the most useful item in the game. Bombs can do a lot of things for us that would normally be supplemented by other items. Like as you can see there, it lets us do a little bit of a hop when we're right over a bomb in morph ball mode. This is a very, very exploitable mechanic, but the developers did definitely plan for you to be able to abuse it to its full potential. Now that bouncing around you might be hearing right now is actually from these little purple bugs right here. We saw a few of these earlier, and if they all started to latch onto us, they would slowly drain our health, as you might have seen them do right there. The only way to get rid of them is to use bombs. They cannot be shot at, they cannot be done any harm by conventional weapons. There's something else special about them that we'll be seeing soon enough, but that's gonna have to wait for next time. I'll see you guys then when we take our bombs and start breaking this game in two. It's gonna be fun. See you then.